just a quick overview of what we're going to learn today. I'll introduce Dr. Burleson in a second, but he's going to talk about how you can attract new customers on Facebook and Google, how you capture data online and offline with automated follow-up built in, how to create lead generation content magnets. So how to create like ebooks and those types of things that attract people to your business. Also, he's going to talk about nurturing prospects who aren't ready and getting them ready to purchase your service. And then also how to keep your customers and more importantly, your employees delighted. So we're going to cover all of those things today. So it's going to be power packed. We're going to be on for about an hour today. We'll do a short Q&A at the end with Dr. Burleson and some other stuff too. So um, get on Twitter, talk with us on Twitter. We have Heather Dobson in the room right now. Say hi, Heather.
Hello, everyone.
She's on social media right now at Infusionsoft, and then also at Burleson Ortho if you want to talk directly to Dr. Burleson. The hashtag for this webinar is pound Dr. Burleson. So pound Dr. Burleson, please help me. I really need help with my marketing. Send it to him on Twitter. He'd love to tweet back with you. We'll tweet back with you at Infusionsoft and answer your questions. Also, if you have questions throughout the webinar, you can ask them on your GoToWebinar control panel. Heather's monitoring that as well, so she'll be responding to people throughout the presentation, and so will I. And that's how we'll communicate with you guys when we open up the floor for Q&A after the presentation. So Dr. Dustin Burleson, DDS, owns Burleson Orthodontics in Kansas City, Missouri. He's an author, a speaker, a teacher, a consultant to health professionals through like private coaching and practice management. He teaches business and marketing courses, and he's been coaching are some of the most successful doctors in North America. And, in 2013, this year, earlier in March, he was an Ultimate Marketer finalist for Infusionsoft. So we're really super excited to have Dr. Dustin Burleson on the phone. How's it going, Dr. B?
Good, Madison. Thank you for having me.
Great.
Okay, guys, I want to share with you a little bit about our story with Infusionsoft. Before I do, as everyone's kind of piling into the webinar, this is kind of cool. I can see the attendee list. I can see the numbers going up, so everyone's kind of hopping on. And I need to kind of get your attention a little bit, as most of us are small business owners. By the time we're done with this webinar, according to the U.S. Department of Labor statistics, 9 small businesses will complete their bankruptcy filing. If you go to the next slide, Madison, another 260 some, roughly 293 businesses will file their initial bankruptcy paperwork today. Now, I don't want to start off on an entirely negative note, but what you should know is by the time we're done with this webinar, in other words, just in the next 60 minutes, right, you're going to see a lot of small businesses that are still struggling in today's economy. And my story is one of those stories. And so I'm going to share with you, if you go to the next slide, Madison, we've got probably roughly 60 minutes to talk with you about roughly in the next 60 minutes, 600 small businesses are going to be in some sort of financial distress, either not meeting their payroll tomorrow or filing bankruptcy. I'm going to tell you, I was in that situation. If we go back and look at what's going on in dentistry, the smartest people on this call will look at what I'm about to say and ask themselves this question: how can this apply to my business? And too many people on the call, unfortunately, will say something along the lines of, well, this guy's a dentist, this does not apply to me because I'm in the dry cleaning business, or I'm in the real estate business, or I'm an attorney, so what he's about to say to me doesn't make sense. I'll tell you, I did that for years, and I'll tell you, a lot of my colleagues are doing that. A lot of the dentists that we coach are doing that, and here's what we found. In my industry, you might think, well, dentists are doing great. My dentist, you might look around your community and say, well, my dentist drives a nice car, he lives in a nice house. Aren't all dentists rich? And I'll tell you, the numbers in our industry are quite frightening. Since 2009, there have been 15 million fewer patients visiting the dentist. If we go to the next slide, Madison, you can look at the American Dental Association keeps track of what it calls an economic confidence indicator, and it's the lowest it's been ever since they started keeping record. It's at a minus 46. That means if you ask 100 dentists, more than 46 of them would say their outlook over the next 4 quarters is extremely negative. In other words, they're seeing fewer patients come in. They're seeing fewer of those patients return for completing recommended treatment. And all in all, adult patients across the board are putting off and avoiding dental treatment and avoiding treatment for their children as well. So if we go to the next, Madison, I'll look at you. I mean, we kind of went through this in our own practice. If we look at starting in around 2008, when the economic recession hit and the subsequent weak recovery since 2009, we sat down, and this is my story. We sat down with my wife and looked at around February of 2009. Are we going to sell the business, or are we going to do something to pull it out of bankruptcy? And so this is not a rare story. The dentists that will tell you that they're not struggling are usually the ones that won't tell you the truth, or they've done some smart things like we've done. So the good news is I'm not going to depress you through the entire call, but if we go forward, Madison, to one more slide, if we the light bulb that kicked on, maybe one more slide. The light bulb that kicked on for us, we looked at some really smart businesses doing some really cool things outside of our industry, and we asked ourselves, what if we started to really focus on increasing patient referrals? What if we created a marketing system that actually encouraged more and more patients to visit the practice, and reminded more and more of them to return? And the answer to that, our solution, was Infusionsoft. And so I'll tell you, I will fast forward and we look at the next slide. We started with 0 patients. So this is not a story of someone who inherited a large practice from a rich father. This is not a story of someone who bought a large practice. This is a story of some young kid. I was 26 years old, straight out of school. I took on a massive amount of debt and opened my own practice with 0 patients. I had 1 employee. Since Infusionsoft, we've grown the business to 35 employees. We have over 7,500 active patients, and we've grown 600% in our new patient numbers. So we're really excited to share with you how we did that. So if we look and kind of fast forward, we've gone from 1 doctor to 5 doctors, and we've grown a business where we really focus on the patient. And Infusionsoft helps us create this ultimate kind of patient life cycle, or ultimate customer life cycle. We asked ourselves, what's in an ideal world, from the first phone call until the patient left our practice with straight teeth and no longer had their braces on, we asked ourselves, what would that be like? And then we started to build that out. And so I'm going to fast forward one more slide and show you. I'm going to give you the end story now, and then we'll show you how we did it. So I'll tell you, we've done it. we've successfully done it. I was there last week. I was in Mexico sitting on the beach doing a webinar for some private coaching clients. We've grown the business massively. I work 1 day a week in the clinic, and we have a lot of great doctors that help. So how we've done that is through massively increasing our referrals. We've made our staff really productive in how they spend time in front of patients, and we've done this with an atmosphere of generosity and philanthropy and giving back to our community. So I'm going to share with you a little bit about how we did referrals. I'm going to tell you, if your to-do list looks anything like my to-do list, this is probably what you're staring at today, right? You've got this massive pile of ideas, this massive pile of strategies that you want to implement one day, and then off to the right, you see this teeny tiny little pile of things that you've actually gotten done. This was me. This was me for years, and some days it still feels like this. But Infusionsoft can take all of this stuff sitting out in your to-do pile, and it can get it done. I'll tell you, so we're going to fast forward. I published 2 books. One is actually a legitimate best-selling book on Amazon called Stop Hiding Your Smile. We produce a lot of free reports, and we're pushing content. We're creating authority in our market. We're doing things differently. If you're a student of Dan Kennedy and people like the late great Earl Nightingale, he said, if you know nothing, if you have no idea what to do, you can at least start by looking around at what everyone else is doing and doing the opposite. And that's what we've done. So we're not sending out postcards that say, get $500 off of Invisalign. We're not doing television ads that lower our fees. In fact, we're one of the most expensive orthodontists in our market. And the reason is we meet parents at the level that they want to be met. And what we've asked, we've surveyed over 15,000 parents in our community, and they want information. They want to know, when is the best time to get braces? How much do braces cost? How long does it take? They have all these questions, and so start asking yourself right now, if you've got pen and paper out, this would be something I would write down. It would be, what questions, what burning desires, what fears or frustrations do my clients, my customers, my patients have? And how can you answer those questions? I can tell you, based on our results, your customers are way more interested in what you can do to help them than they are in getting $500 off of what you do. And so if we go forward one more slide, I'm going to show you, We've grown our practice from 0 new patients to over 170 new patients per month. The average dentist sees about 10 to 12 new patients a month. Even a somewhat busy practice might see 20 or 30. So I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this to start to wrap your mind around what it's like to process 5 to 10 to 20 times more new customers than the average person in your industry does. Because that's what will happen when you get Infusionsoft, and you better have a system to manage it. So you're looking at our marketing automation plan. When we sat down with some really smart people in this industry and said, you know, with Infusionsoft, and these guys are brilliant, by the way. If you're not using them as a resource, you need to do that. You need to sit down and ask, what could we do to maximize the number of people that can come to our business? Once they get there, what can we do to keep them engaged? And then what can we do to have them refer their friends and family? So if we go forward one more slide, Madison, what we've done is automate every step of our process with Infusionsoft. We can put staff members, right, in front of patients building relationships. We don't have to. Does that make sense? We don't have to have patients sitting and wandering around like our number one frustration. Parents say, you know, I feel like when I go to the orthodontist that my kid's just a number. If you've had braces or gone through Invisalign, you know that you have to see the orthodontist about every 4 to 6 weeks, sometimes every 8 or 10 weeks, but you have to see them over and over again. And the problem with that is with a high volume practice, it can be very easy for a patient or a parent to go through your system or go through your business and feel like there's no personal relationship. Infusionsoft will let you get the things automated that need to be automated so that you can focus on the patient. You can focus building a relationship with the customer. And so this is an example inside of Infusionsoft. I'm going to actually give you guys some inside baseball here. I'm going to show you some things we're actually using. So we used to send letters to patients at certain key points in the relationship, and we would send letters to dentists as well. And what we found is that sometimes we got those letters out on time, and other times we completely forgot. And so if you're human like me, you're not perfect. You will forget things. Fortunately, Infusionsoft can completely eliminate that problem for you. And so in this example, a diagnostic summary letter that has to go to a dentist, especially if we're coordinating treatment, you might imagine, it's very important that these go out on time. Infusionsoft can make sure this happens every time without a glitch. It really gives you the time to step back and say, I don't even have to worry about the darn letters. I can just focus on what matters. And what matters is building the relationship with your customer. So if we go one more slide forward, Madison, we can look at another example. Is queuing up at certain points in the relationship how we talk to patients and when we communicate with them on the phone. And so we have a system in place, and I always joke and say Infusionsoft could charge me 10 times more than they do per month, and I would still pay it, because just automating the number of patients or customers that come to your business and say, I got to think about it. Let me go home and talk to my spouse. Or, you know, we're still comparing a few providers, or I'm not sure if this is the best time to start. Whatever you do, the patients or customers that come in and say, I'm still thinking about it, you can automate a system that keeps them engaged and meets them on their level and says, absolutely, take all the time you need to think about it. Let me make sure I get you your questions answered. In our practice, we have automated call reminders that go out through Infusionsoft with the script attached. And so I joke and say you could actually train a monkey in our practice to sit in front of a phone and call a patient because the script is there walking them through step by step. Imagine taking in 170 new clients per month and making sure that each one of them gets followed up with at the appropriate time. For us, it was impossible. So this is why we got Infusionsoft. And we turned on what we call our appointment no sale process. We turned that into Infusionsoft, and now my staff members at the appropriate time for every patient get reminded. So imagine you come in today, and I tell you that it's time for you to start your treatment, and I make a recommendation to you. And you say, well, I need to go home and talk to my spouse about it. And so a certain series of steps will happen for you that happen on a predefined time point. Now, someone else comes in tomorrow, and they might say the same thing or a different variant of that. Those patients need to be followed up with on a time frame that makes sense for them. What we did in the past, and what a lot of our private coaching clients do before they meet with us, is we say, when did you last follow up with the patients who came to your practice, or the customers that came into your business, and they said, I got to think about it. What most of them do, unfortunately, is say, I don't know. I'm not sure what the last time was that we followed up. for the majority that do follow up, they do it all in one lump time frame. So they'll go back each month and communicate with people and say, well, we just go back at the end of every 30 days and call the people that haven't been back. Well, imagine how awkward that would be for someone who just came in yesterday and you're towards the end of the month and they get a call tomorrow where the next person who came in 29 days ago is just now getting a call 29 days later. I mean, ask yourself that question. What would you think if a business who you expressed interest in took 29 days to call you back? For me, that would be a turnoff. And so in our practice, we've said we'd like to follow up with patients within the first week and within the second week, and we've tested this, and we continue to follow up every 30 days. And you'd be shocked. You probably couldn't even guess how long it's taken some patients to come back around and say, okay, now we're ready. It is sometimes years, and we'll see patients float around inside of our Infusionsoft sequences for years before they come back. How many of you could say with confidence that your staff could follow up with a patient for years? In other words, to remind themselves to make the phone calls, to put in their calendar to send the letters. This is impossible. I'm going to tell you, we've tried everything. We tried Aweber, we tried Constant Contact, we tried MailChimp, we tried doing it internal with stacks of paper. It's maddening. You won't do it. So I'm going to tell you, there's nothing out there, and I'm not paid to say this. There's nothing out there like Infusionsoft. This system can make sure that every customer, every patient inside of your business gets followed up with at the appropriate time for that individual. So it's really exciting. So we go to the next slide, Matt, and I'll show you what we're doing inside as well. We turn this into our onboarding process for training and hiring new employees. So you sit back and ask yourself, what are we doing in our business over and over and over again that could be automated? Make a list. Make sure today when you get off this call, make a list of 10 things you're going to automate. What 10 things do you do over and over and over again? Is it a new customer welcome sequence? What happens when a new client calls your business and you have to return the call, send a letter, mail a brochure, whatever that process is, down, right? And for us, after we automated all the marketing and all the follow-up with referring dentists and all the things we do in our business to grow referrals, increase productivity, we said, you know, we're doing the same things over and over again. As this business grows, we're doing the same things over and over again with employees. And so how many times do you need to send out a new employee welcome package that talks about you need to make sure you've got your W-2 filled out, and here's your I-9 form, here's your social security, all that stuff, right? Go ahead and automate this. So our training is doing it. What we've found is when we focus our employees on managing relationships with the patients, that internal referrals go up. So our patient-to-patient referrals today are 60%. Before Infusionsoft, they hovered around 8 to 15%. Imagine tomorrow you come into your business and 6 out of every 10 of your new customers were referred by an existing customer. Everyone knows the answer to this question. Who are your best customers? They're your word-of-mouth referrals. Infusionsoft can help you build that, right? Both directly through things you can do inside of sequences, but indirectly as an added benefit. This is the tide that lifts all boats. When you take every acquisition dollar in marketing, what you're spending on Google, what you're spending on Facebook, what you're spending on direct mail, and you put that, right, and you cut it in half because every single one of those new customers refers a friend or family member, this is how you grow a business six times in 3 years. You can't underestimate the power of this. So Infusionsoft can help you increase patient-to-patient referrals, customer-to-customer referrals. Okay, I'm going to share with you guys some stuff on how we're doing this. Does that sound cool? So we're going to show you some actual pieces we're using. So the next slide, Madison, is actually a little referral gift card we use. And we encourage patients to refer their friends or family. We entice them with what I call an ethical bribe, which is an iPod. And we load this up with content that we've developed. Remember, we're doing things differently. So we've got a website called burlesonorthotv.tv, and what it does is it shows parents answers to the most common questions they ask in webinar format. So we can load up these little iPod Nanos with content on how to take care of the braces, what to do in case of an emergency, little funny videos about, you know, the braces process. And so we're giving the parents a reason to give their kid a really cool gift. We're also loading it up with educational content. So if we go to the next slide, Madison, we're doing these through direct mail as well. So we can actually cue in at the certain point of the relationship direct mail pieces. This is a postcard that goes out. And these postcards are customized based on what treatment the patient is in. Imagine like doing this without Infusionsoft. Just looking at your database, can you tell me, if you're an insurance organization, can you tell me what types of policies your customers have, and is that in your CRM where every patient or every customer that gets communicated with actually gets their communication built just for them? Right, this is very powerful. So patients who have braces, we talk to them about braces. Patients who have jaw joint pain, we don't talk about braces. Patients who have Invisalign, we talk about Invisalign, right? It's like every piece of communication was built just for me. That's what you want your patients saying. And so in our business, Infusionsoft helps us do that through direct mail as well. So if we go to the next slide, Madison, let's look at our newsletter. Inside of our newsletter, you can actually track patient-to-patient referrals. You can track these, and you can share with them social proof. And this is really fun. So inside of our newsletter, we'll have a list of all the patients, and this is an example. This is a partial list of everyone who referred their friends and family in the last month. And so it creates this atmosphere, right, that this is the place to be. Your business is exciting. There's cool stuff going on, and Infusionsoft can keep track of all this for you. If I asked you today, sitting down in a private coaching meeting, and said, how many of your customers last month were referred by existing customers, I can tell you the answer that most of my private coaching clients give when they first hire me. Most of them do not know, and if they do know, they kind of take a stab at it. Say, I don't know, a lot, maybe 50%. They'll go back and look it up and say, oh, it's not as much as I thought it was. Right? If you're not focusing on internal referrals, I can tell you your business probably is stagnant or not growing. This is the lifeblood of business. Let's fast forward, Madison, one more slide. We'll look at our website. Inside of our website, we're queuing up all sorts of opportunities for patients to opt in. And so in this example, you'll see there's a chance to opt in for our monthly prizes and raffles, and we can look at how we opt in for free reports. But Infusionsoft can take all of the new patient acquisition, right, and they can automate it so that patients can actually get information when they want it. You'd be surprised how many people will opt in and ask for a free report about when the kids should get braces, and they'll do it at like 11 o'clock at night or 1 o'clock in the morning. So my question to you is, do you have someone on the phones in your business at 11 o'clock at night, right, answering phone calls and queuing up sequences to follow up with potential leads? I tell you, before we had Infusionsoft, we weren't. We were trying it half-heartedly through some other systems that frankly wouldn't let you do a whole lot. But with Infusionsoft, you can really queue up all sorts of new patients. We've got hundreds and hundreds of people floating through our new patient sequences that are not customers of ours yet, but they'll float through and they will actually one day become customers. This is really, really exciting. So let's go ahead and go forward a few more slides, Madison. We'll look at some opt-in areas inside of our websites. Okay, I don't know if you guys can see the next slide, but I'm going to go ahead and just talk through a little bit about staff productivity. If we can, eventually we'll get to that slide, but if you can hear me, Madison, I'll continue. If we look at productivity and looking at what our staff's doing, I'll give you guys some examples of things we're doing to float forward and actually push the relationship to the front end with working with patients. So is that cool? Madison, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I got you.
Okay,
Sorry.
cool. Awesome. So I'm going to show you guys, if you can go forward, probably looking somewhere in the area of the staff productivity slide. We can fast forward right there. Cool. Good. Keep going. Probably all the way down. I'm going to show you if we look at our calendar. Does that make sense? Cool. All right. Go forward one more. Good. All right. So this is interesting. We added up the number of hours we were spending queuing up things in our system before we had Infusionsoft. So when you make your list of 10 things, so everyone on the call, when you get off the call, or even now, start to make a list of what 10 things in my business could I automate? Is it how we attract new patients or new customers? Is it how we follow up with them? Is it how we onboard new employees? Is it follow up with potential vendors? Whatever those things are that you say, listen, we do the same thing over and over and over again, and it's not reliable because some days it works and other days, if Sally, who does the fulfillment, is out sick, it just doesn't happen, right? So new customers that call in, they get pushed to Sally, Sally follows up, and they send out all the information. If that's not happening consistently, right, or if you add up the amount of time you're wasting on that, Infusionsoft will totally change your business. And so for us, we were wasting all the way from January until July 6th. Imagine coming in next year, at the beginning of the year, on January 1st, and I say, no, you can't do anything at all in your business until July 6th. We were wasting that much time just queuing up new customers and following up with them, sending out the new patient package, and then all the steps in the process. That makes sense. We're saving more than half of our year. You can't underestimate this. You can't overemphasize this enough. Does that make sense? You really look in your business and you find out things you're doing over and over and over again and start to add up how much time does a staff member spend on these, right? And what you'll look is you'll find this you're wasting thousands and thousands of hours doing things that can be repeated. So
hey, Dr. V, I'm going to jump in here really quick for a second.
Yeah.
I realized that you couldn't see the slides for a little bit when we were going through your presentation, so I want to go back to this area here where you're talking about the opt-in on your actual homepage. I think you guys can see it now, so you'll see where he's talking about opting in for the prizes and the raffles, and then where people actually do that. So if you want to just like speak to that again really quick so people can see it,
Cool,
and then we can move forward.
Yeah, I apologize. I couldn't see the slides, so I wasn't sure what everybody else was seeing. So,
yeah.
If we look at so in this example, we're looking at monthly prizes and raffles that our office does to keep patients engaged. So we might reward people and put them in a raffle if they show up on time, if they keep their teeth really clean. If you remember back, if you ever had braces, it's kind of hard to keep your teeth clean. So we reward people for taking care of their braces and basically being really productive citizens, what we call them in our practice. So if you've got someone in your business that's doing something really, really cool, right, like making your life easier or really referring new customers or clients, you might consider rewarding them. And as long as you're doing it in a random fashion, always check with your legal counsel and check with your state regulations on raffles. But we give away raffles in Missouri. We're allowed to do it if it's random, and you can enter it without having to purchase anything. So you guys can all get into my raffles now. So you can go ahead and sign up. But we're opting in, right? On our website, we're giving patients the opportunity to opt in. This follows up automatically inside of Infusionsoft. So all we need is a name or an email address. Really, we just need an email address. And we can put patients into our follow-up sequences, and we've captured hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of new patients this way through engaging them. So here's another example, which is a free report on the top 10 things you should know before choosing your family's orthodontist. We're getting ahead of the life cycle purchasing moment. When Google says, right, when someone types in something, they're in the zero moment. We're trying to get ahead of that, what Charlie Martin would call the 0-0 moment, and that is saying, do my kids even need braces? And if so, when is the best time to get them? So we're getting parents. The story I share is I was at Costco, and some of you may have heard the story. I was at Costco, and I was coming out of the store, and I'm putting my groceries into my car, and this lady stops me and she says, "Are you Dr. Burleson?" And I said, yes. And I'm doing this thing where I'm kind of visually going through my Rolodex trying to remember this mom's name and hopefully her child's name, who I'm assuming are patients in my practice. And she kind of could tell that I was kind of pausing. She said, "Oh, we're not patients yet. We're coming in to see you tomorrow, but we've been watching your YouTube videos." And so she was on the Burleson Ortho TV, which is another place parents can opt in and get into our sequences. And so I went back. I made a note in my little mental note. I said, I got to remember this patient's name, and I got to go look her up. And so I looked her up inside of Infusionsoft. This mom had been in our sequences for 11 months. She had 11 months ahead of deciding to do something about her child's orthodontic needs. She had opted into a free report, and then she had watched some videos, and then she was in our monthly nurture sequence, so she was receiving information from our practice, and it took her 11 months to finally come in for a new patient exam. So my question is, in your business, do you have the capacity to do that? If I called your business today and said, I'm just interested in what you guys do, and I gave you the forewarning that I'm not doing anything for another 11 months, could you keep in contact with me consistently? And you might say, yeah, but now my next question is, what if 170 people did it? What if 170 people called today and said, I'd like some information about what you do? Could you manage those people for the next 11 months and keep them engaged? And my answer for us was absolutely not until we got Infusionsoft. And Infusionsoft can take that process and automate it. So this is another example that Madison's showing you, which is signing up for a free report on the front of our website. Let's see if there's any other examples. Madison, I don't know if there are. Looks like that's it. So if we go into staff productivity, what we were finding, so the next question then that begs to be answered is, if you could, how long would that take? And that's where we found out to do that would take us over 6 months of the entire year. Does that make sense? So we can take 6 months of our year, in other words, 50% of our productivity, and turn that on to the things that matter. I mean, what matters? Spending time stuffing envelopes or replying to emails or setting up webinars or managing your Google Pay-Clicks account? Or does what matter getting in front of your customer, building a relationship with your customer, encouraging that customer to multiply through patient referrals, through new customer referrals. We found that what matters is the relationship with the customer, and Infusionsoft lets you do it. And the cool part is it does it all behind the scenes. It does it automatically, which is very cool. So if we go forward, Madison, we'll go into now some actual step-by-step stuff. This is what everybody likes to see, so we keep going. We're going to get to our new lead sequence and what happens right immediately when a patient becomes a new, they go from a new, right here, so they go from a new patient, right, from they're just floating around one of our sequences, and then they come in and actually start treatment. Again, imagine a new customer comes in and you say, okay, on the very first day, we want to make sure they get out of all the other sequences, so Infusionsoft does that automatically. And then we want to send them a welcome email that might have directions to the office and new patient paperwork and maybe a video from me talking about why our office is different. That happens immediately on day 1. On day 3, they might get a letter kind of summarizing what happened. We'll send that to their dentist. On day 5, they might get a custom gift card when they actually have started their braces. What we found is the first few days of having braces is kind of sore. And so we automatically send out, with an API from Infusionsoft to send out cards, we automatically send out a little card with a gift card to Starbucks inside. This happens all automatically, and it goes through the regular mail. Imagine, my customer is usually about a 12-year-old kid getting braces. Imagine how many 12-year-olds get stuff in the mail. And imagine what happens when their mom sees that, holy cow, someone cares enough about my kid to send them a gift card to go get a smoothie at Starbucks because we found that something soft and cool is usually soothing for sore teeth. And so we have a little story we share, and we send out a gift card, and that all happens automatically through Infusionsoft. From day 1 until the day they get their braces off, imagine what would be the perfect life cycle, and then build that in Infusionsoft, turn it on once, set it and forget it. It happens automatically forever. It's super, super, super cool. So if we go to the next slide, we'll share with you all the way through, right? We keep in heavy contact for the first 180 days. Then we automatically put them into our birthday list where every year, while they're a patient of ours, they get a birthday card with a free cupcake coupon. We put them in a monthly contest and referrals. The day they get their braces off, they get a card that automatically goes out and sends out a free caramel apple, because we've surveyed patients and said, what's the one thing you want, right? When a new patient finally gets their braces off, right? The number one answer is, I've been dying to have a caramel apple.
I have to say, that's really true. Because I have braces on right now, and I want to eat one of those right now.
You're just dying to have one, right? We're going to have to put you in one of our sequences. So if we go to the next slide, Madison, we'll look at the marketing automation plan. And I would say probably this is the number one area where people that are new to Infusionsoft get stuck, and they start thinking about all the different technical aspects of how they're going to build out the perfect customer life cycle. And Madison, wouldn't you say? I mean, I guess you can verify this for me. Like, you can go through with your Infusionsoft, with your specialist, and actually build this out. This is not that hard, right? This is where everyone gets stuck.
Yeah, it seems really complicated when you look at it, but because we have our success consultants and business consultants, they actually kind of like walk you through this in a conversation. But what's really great about this is that it actually lets you visualize what was like in the 2 slides that we saw before. So sometimes it's really easy to write things out, but when you can actually say, okay, if this happens, this is what happens, and then you draw it out so your mind can visually conceptualize what you're actually doing.
Exactly. So I mean, this, you can't possibly underestimate the importance of this. And I think hopefully Madison would agree. This, I mean, so you could see the difference in our business. This single piece of paper, right, which took me months and months to sit down and work out. But once you get it, you can do this with your business specialist inside of Infusionsoft so much faster. This literally is your roadmap, right? Whatever it is in your business that's going to drive you. We're going to talk a little bit about what drives me, which is our Cleft Palate Foundation. Whatever it is, if it's more time with your kids, right? If it's hiring that next staff member so you can finally get out of the office before 7 o'clock at night, or 8 o'clock at night, or 10 o'clock at night, whatever it is. If it's retiring or selling your business and getting some equity back out, whatever it is, this is your roadmap. This has been worth no fewer than several $1 million per year to our business. You can't possibly overestimate what this is worth to someone or underestimate the importance. Does that make sense? I mean, this process, going through this with Infusionsoft, is huge. And so if we look probably at the next slide, I'm going to show you what we're going to go through and actually work with you on and give you some examples. If you are a service provider, or if you're like me, an orthodontist, this is actually what happens inside of our Infusionsoft sequences for new employees. We always joke and say Infusionsoft's awesome. It'll solve one problem and then create the next one for you. So the next problem for us that Infusionsoft created was our business just was like wildfire. It grew like crazy. So you have to, when you grow a business this quickly, when you go up 400, 500, 600%, you need to add a few staff members. And so we found that onboarding our new staff members was sometimes difficult. And so what we've done now is actually we've systemized what happens from day 1 through day 30 for new employees, whether that's getting new patient paperwork or new employee paperwork, going through training modules specific to their job position. These aren't just somewhere where we put someone in front of a computer and say, okay, go sit in front of the computer for the next 30 days, and when you come out, you'll be this trained employee. These are supplemental with live demonstration, right, and follow through in our practice. So we might pair up someone with a supervisor, and the supervisor can now see how many of these modules the new employee has completed, how they're doing with their progress. All of these modules require supervisor signatures and approval. And so think about, right, the last new employee you brought on, and then compare that to your very first employee. If you're like me, your very first employee, if he or she is still with you, can probably do everything in your business that you can do, right? Because you got to train them one-on-one. It was the owner of the business and that one employee, and I'll tell you, we still have her. She started off as a receptionist. She's now a pediatric dental specialist. She's in Chicago. She still works with us. She does our newsletters. And that employee can do everything I can do. Literally, she's actually a dentist now. So, but think about your last employee, right? It's like that game of telephone. If you remember, right, in grade school, you'd play the telephone game where the first person had an idea and they whispered it to the person next to them, whatever it is, a little sentence. And that person whispered it to the next person, and so on and so forth. And when you got to the end of the line, right, the person who received the message last, it was completely different than the initial message. That's what happens with your employees. You train your first employee, and it's usually awesome. Then that employee trains the next one because you get busy. And then that one's in a team that trains the next one. So if you don't get real serious about the organization in your business, I'll tell you, Infusionsoft can grow your business like gangbusters, and then what you'll end up doing is like having these headaches where you don't have enough employee training. Turn this on to your new employee onboarding sequence. Like use it for everything. So we're using Infusionsoft to train new employees, which is really, really cool. And a lot of our coaching clients are doing this now too. So let's go ahead and fast forward, Madison. There's a few pictures we'll share with you. Again, I wanted to share the story with everyone because these are the things that you should be thinking about inside of your business, right? What makes you get up in the morning and get really excited to go to work? If you're in that point right now where you say, I can't stand going to work, you need to really analyze what's going on in your business. And if you're like a lot of small business owners, right, I just told you by the time this webinar is done, there's 293 that will file for bankruptcy. Somewhere in the process of starting their business and where they are today, they lost sight of what matters. Okay, Infusionsoft can help you get all the stuff that helps build your business, but really doesn't matter for you. Stuffing an envelope and putting a stamp on it shouldn't matter to you, right? Balancing books and looking at all the stuff that you do behind the scenes, right? That's not what you're gonna sit back in 30 years and go, I'm glad I stayed at the office late one night and stuffed a bunch of envelopes and sent out a bunch of statements and mailed a bunch of letters to referring partners. Does that make sense? What matters is what really gets you up in the morning and gets you excited about your business. And so for me, it's treating a lot of patients that are born with a deformity called cleft lip and palate. And so we've formed our own cleft lip and palate foundation. And in our practice, we track how much we've given. This is actually quite a bit more now. It's above $450,000. We're really using the growth of the business to support our community. So if there's a charity that provides free dental care to kids, we want to be the person supporting it. If there's a dentist going overseas to provide dental care in Honduras, like Dr. Evers is doing in the bottom right corner, we want to be the person writing the check for that. If there's an organization that gives kids braces for free that have parents that can't afford it, we want to be the person doing that. And I'll tell you, this is where Infusionsoft can grow your revenue so wildly that you'll step back and say, okay, now what can I really do that's fun? And looking at our business, we had a whole host of kids that were falling through the cracks, right? They were making enough money to not be on Medicaid, but not making enough to cover the extreme expense of kids that are born with cleft lip and palate. You may not know this, but a kid that's born with this condition, the parents will spend in the first 18 years of that child's life over $120,000 of out-of-pocket medical expense to get that child's palate repaired, to go through speech therapy, to have braces placed, usually several times. Usually we have to do multiple surgeries as they grow so that their noses stay looking good and their lips stay looking good. All these issues, these parents couldn't afford it. And so we formed a foundation to help these kids and get the care for free. And Infusionsoft is what let us do that, right? So what's in your business? What would you get really passionate about? How could you grow your business 600%? I mean, what if you came to me next year and said, our business is up 600%? What could you do with that? The possibilities, they're really endless. And so in our business, this is an example of a patient that we did with Smiles Change Lives, and I love this story because he had a really severe bite issue, as you can see in these before and after photos. And when we finally took his braces off, he sat there and just stared at the mirror. He was really quiet, and I didn't know what he was going to say, and he looked at me and he said, I don't mean to sound conceited, but man, I look good. And he was so impressed, right, what braces could do for him. And his family was still living in Mexico, and he was trying to make it here as a soccer player and sending money back to his family in Mexico. And he couldn't afford braces, and we did this through an organization called Smiles Change Lives. When you grow your business 600%, I don't care what industry you're in, what profession you're in, there's people out there that can benefit from what you do. And if you can use the growth of your business to support people that can be ambassadors for what you do. I mean, you think this kid likes orthodontics or just loves what orthodontics did for him? This kid is a lifelong fan of what my profession does. And so who's out there in your community that could do the same? I tell you, there's a bunch of people sitting in your office right now that could answer that question. And this is our team. So we grew from 1 employee to over 35, and this is what we do now. So every 6 months we take really fun trips, and we do, in dentistry we have to do continuing education. We get to learn more stuff about what's new in our profession and stay up to date. And so this is kind of cool, right? Because this is now an employee recruitment tactic, right? We'll see this and go, well, I want to come work for you guys. I mean, when you create an atmosphere, right, that really focuses on building relationships and really focuses on what's right about your business, it'll grow like wildfire. The pictures you're looking at are our team in Cancun, and then again the Bahamas, and then one more time in Puerto Rico. In the last 18 months, we've gone to all 3 of those places. And each time it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So what could you do in your business? You're not just changing your customers' lives. You're not just changing your patients' lives. You're also changing the lives of your employees. And so we've really taken this seriously. And I'd say this is kind of fun when you have patients that come in. You'll know you're doing it right when parents or patients or customers say, are you guys hiring? Because I'd love to come work here. I mean, when's the last time one of your customers asked you if you're hiring? And the answer should be every week. And so when you have patients or parents or customers asking, could I come work for you, you'll know you're doing this right. And Infusionsoft, again, helps you do this. It gives me a chance to go teach. And so in our business, we're now teaching other dentists what we're doing. And this will give you a chance in your industry. What could you do? What could you share with the next generation? Are there students out there that might want to learn what you're doing? And I'll tell you, there's no way we could grow our business and have me go from treating patients 6 days a week to 1 day a week. We've got more doctors, right? We're turning our vision onto more doctors. There's doctors now coming and saying, I want to join your practice. I want to do what you're doing. And so we're growing the business on all levels. And the way we've done it is with Infusionsoft. I don't know if there's any more slides or a whole lot of slides left, Madison, but that's kind of my story in general. I'd like to hear what questions people have, and I'm available to help share with you parts of what we've done.
One thing I do want to hop back to have you speak to, because I know people probably have some questions on it, excuse me, is when we were talking about the actual steps or the days that you're delivering things to your new customers as they come on board with you. I'm going to transition back to that slide here so that we can talk through it. I know some people, especially for me, if I was running a business and I was looking at this, I would say, okay, that's all great and dandy and awesome, but how do I actually accomplish what is happening in that day? So do you think you can talk through some of the ways that you, maybe used other resources or to create the actual assets that you're delivering on each of those days, if that makes sense?
Absolutely. So I tell you, we've kind of reverse engineered it. So if you said, okay, your question is a great question, which is, what is the ideal life cycle for my customer? How do we know? And if you don't have a clue, you can start, first of all, like Earl Nightingale said, and look at what everyone else in your industry is doing and do the opposite. Second would be to look at surveys with your patients and parents or customers. You could ask them, what was your biggest fear or frustration in looking for a new insurance agent? What was your biggest fear or frustration when finding an attorney for your malpractice claim? Whatever that is, right? They're going to start to tell you They've been through other businesses. They've been through them. They've been through their life cycles, which frankly suck, and they're going to tell you what they didn't like. You could also look around what you experience in your own interaction with other customers and other businesses, right? So if you go to a restaurant that does something really, really well, ask yourself, how could I use this in my business? If you go to a bank that does something really well, ask yourself, how could I use this in my business? If you're in the service industry, you should be visiting nice hotels. Go stay at a Ritz-Carlton, stay at a Four Seasons, and see how they treat you. See how they follow up with you, and then start to build out a life cycle. So in building those resources for us, a lot of it was just sitting down and thinking, if I was a patient, what would be helpful for me to receive at this time? And so a lot of the free reports and the free articles and the things that we've done, the videos, are just based on our basic gap in the user interface, right? Where someone says, okay, my kid got braces and no one really showed us how to take care of these things. Well, we've got an entire system that does that, right? Okay, I scheduled a new patient exam with your business, but I'm not even sure how to get there. I'm not sure where you're located, and I don't have any information about you, about the doctor. So we have an entire shock and awe package that goes out, automated through Infusionsoft. We've answered, you look at gaps, right? You say, if I was a patient, what questions, what fears, what frustrations would I have, and how can I answer those? So in this example, right, if you say a letter and a diagnostic summary to a dentist, so that might be like a business-to-business referral where you've got another vendor that just you placed a big order with, and you're going to deliver some product to them. They might say, okay, once this big box of stuff shows up, what do I do next as a customer in your business? You might then have a system that follows up with them. Hey, Bill, I hope you got the product we sent you. Here's some things, our most popular questions we get from customers once they get their shipment. Here's how to get the product on the shelves. Here's how to sell it. Here's some things we've done. And you follow up with them over and over again. So if that answers your question, we're answering and filling in the gaps in the user experience, right? Where you have people experiencing frustrations, where there's bottlenecks, or frankly, if you're having areas in your business that aren't growing and patient-to-patient referrals, ask yourself, what could I do to solve those problems? And that's how we came up with the content.
Yeah, that totally answers my question. We actually have a stream of a bunch of questions coming in, and we're going to get to those right now. I just wanted to share with you guys really quickly. Here is the URL to Dr. Burleson's website. You can go check out some of the things that we talked about today and just roam around and take a look at it, see where he's using the content to collect new patients, and get into some of his sequences and see how he's following up with you, and then you can take those concepts and model them in your business. And also, this whole presentation and the marketing automation map, which is following up automatically, the thing that we showed you, that Dr. Burleson showed you earlier, and this whole concept and this whole way that it's mapped out is at Infusionsoft what we call life cycle marketing. And Dr. B spoke to it, which means you actually sit down and say, what do I want my customer to do? How do I want my customer to move forward? So actually, today we're going to be offering a free 30-minute lifecycle marketing consultation. What we're going to give to you is an ebook that we actually collaborated with Dr. Burleson on, and he actually walks through these concepts here. But what's awesome about that is it's not so much applied heavily towards dentistry. It's really applied heavily towards service providers and other businesses trying to set up these concepts in their business. We also have our trained business consultants ready to talk about the worksheet and the planner that we have that actually goes step by step, the things that you need to fix and how you get that done. And it's all conceptual. It doesn't have anything to do with our software or anything like that. It's really a free 30-minute business consultation, and they'll walk you through our life cycle marketing concept and help you start figuring out what your individual map looks like. So if you are interested in taking advantage of that today, I'm going to launch a poll here, and just click yes, and we'll have somebody email to you and schedule a time for you that you can come in and talk. We'll come in, get on the phone, or you can come in if you're in Arizona. And we would love to spend some time with you today talking about how you actually build that map, because I think Dr. B would agree, what's the hardest part about starting with marketing automation and following up automatically and building these amazing sequences that you've built is I don't really know what I want my customer to do. Yeah, I know that I want them to buy my service or my product at the end of the day, but what steps does it take between when they come to my website or when I meet them at an event to when they actually put money into my business? So we are going to
Exactly.
take some
That's yeah.
questions here. And Heather has been feverishly replying to everybody. So we love Heather. Say hi, Heather. She's here. Go ahead and take it away.
Well, hi, Dr. B, and thanks so much for this. What I want to lead off with is actually a comment instead of a question, and it's from Rolando Arriaga, and he says, "Greetings from Honduras. I appreciate what you do for the poor in my country."
Oh, wow.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, we send a lot of toothbrushes every year. Then we sponsor dentists who go in there and provide free dental care. In remote areas of Honduras, it's very hard for children to find a dentist at all, let alone to get to one. And so yeah, it's an honor. It's a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Okay, so here's a few of the questions that came in, and I'll ask them one by one and give you the opportunity to respond, Dr. B. So the first question came in from Alan Martin, and he's wondering what kind of verbiage you use to follow up every 30 days with clients or prospects that are not ready to buy yet, but without sounding too pushy.
It's a great question because you can follow this. You can turn people off. You can be the pest instead of the welcome guest. And how you become the welcome guest is by following up with stuff that they want. And so we will usually provide all of our content in 3 different ways. So the question to Al would be, or the answer would be, to not only provide video, but also written reports in PDF format and then audio. So we're always hitting them because a lot of people like to learn differently. And so in our monthly sequences, they're getting our monthly newsletter. I can tell you cannot underestimate getting something in the mail. We've tested this. Listen, if I could do everything in my business without putting stuff in the mail, I would. Right? If Google could do it, they would. Isn't it funny that Google spends over $100 million a year on direct mail? If anyone could sell stuff through digital only, it would be Google. Amazon has a print catalog. 1-800-Flowers has a print catalog. J. Crew and Banana Republic, they drive the majority of their business through print catalog. So we're giving people a monthly print newsletter, and I've tested it. We get this question all the time. But I do a digital newsletter. Doesn't that count? Sure, it counts if you don't want results. We've done both. We've done it with digital only. We've done it with print only, and we've done it with digital and print, and every time digital and print wins. And so our monthly follow-up, without being pesky, is to send a monthly newsletter to their mailbox and a monthly digital newsletter. And inside of that newsletter, which is wrapped in great content, right? It's stuff about when should your customer do this or when might they do that. It's interesting stories about you. It's something they actually look forward to getting. Inside of that is always wrapped some sort of an offer. Does that make sense? So we're sending them something good, something they want. There's content, but inside there's an offer. Could be for free whitening, could be for a free exam, could be for whatever you do in your business. So I'm giving dental examples. But it's basically an excuse to get in front of them and say, here's some more information. I can promise you there's no one else in your area doing these things. Right? Our clients that we do geographic exclusive contracts with them because no one else is going to do them because they're too complicated. Right? It's worth the effort. There is no easy button. You don't get to wake up tomorrow and make $1 million as a small business owner just because you want to. You've got to do the hard work, right? And so Infusionsoft is the most amazing system at taking something really, really, really complex and getting it done. Does that make sense? I mean, I wouldn't be here today if this thing didn't make me millions of dollars, and it has, but you've got to take it seriously. So my answer in a long, roundabout way is to make sure you're giving them content every month that they want and to do it both in digital and in print. Did that come through okay, Madison? Do you guys have a next question?
Yeah. So sorry about that. Madison muted me. So that was great. That was a great answer.
She mutes me all the time.
Usually she has used duct tape for me. So the next question comes from Brian Seacrest, and it's more of a process-driven question. How do you have Infusionsoft integrated so that once a prospect becomes a patient, you don't keep sending them follow-ups in an attempt to convert them from a prospect to a patient?
Good. So it's a great question, and it begs to be asked, and you need to figure out an answer to it. And Infusionsoft does it instantly and easily. So once a patient goes from what we consider a new lead or someone who's interested in your services but hasn't actually purchased them yet, Infusionsoft can automatically take them out of those sequences. And so in our business, we've built a bridge. In the dental world, we've built a bridge through Dentma, and they have a little API that syncs up with our practice management software. The minute you schedule a new patient exam, it kicks you out of our new lead sequences. So you're right. You don't want to say, come visit our office. We have some great things to offer when they just scheduled an appointment and they're already on their way to your office. It would not make sense. And so those are very, very easy to do. That entire life cycle, how someone walks through each stage of your process inside of your business, is all automated with Infusionsoft. So the very second they click on a link or schedule an appointment with your office, it would kick them out of the sequences that talk to them about basically being a new lead instead of a new patient. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense. Okay, so we have a question from Tariq Mustafa, and he'd like to know, do you use a separate practice management software system that holds your patient data?
We do. So the question is, inside of most dental practices, we already have internal systems that monitor and manage patient accounts, patient charts, and things like that. And we do. I tell you, we're testing building the whole darn thing inside of Infusionsoft, and we're probably still a year away from having that happen. But we do use a separate practice management software, and then Infusionsoft talks to that through an API that we built through a company called Dentma. And I'll tell you, if you have, in my recommendation, fewer than 50 new patients per month, you can probably manage both databases without any problem. Once you get above 100 new patients a month, you do need to consider building some sort of an API or a link between your practice management software and Infusionsoft. But we did it for about 18 months with no link. We just manually managed both databases. And you say, well, but that's hard. And I'll say, yeah, well, so is making an extra $1 million next year. So just suck it up and do it.
Perfect. I love it. So Brandon Rodak would like to know, what kind of automated sequences do you use when someone opts in by filling out a form for a free ebook or other info?
It's a great question. So it's probably where you'll start with your business specialist inside of Infusionsoft, which is what can we do to generate new patients, either on Facebook, Google Ad Clicks, whatever you're doing to get people to come to your website, and you dangle this bait of a free report. What happens next? Well, obviously you give them the free report, and then we walk them through it. Don't assume, you never assume readership, right? You don't just assume because you sent someone a free report that they're going to read it. And so you might break it down and say, hey, I hope you received the free report. So like a week later, you say, I hope you received the free report. Here's some popular questions we have about the first section. And you go through the first section. Or here's a video about the second section. Or when you're finally ready to come to our business, here's some things we've found that are popular and popular concerns with patients or customers or clients. And then here's a kicker. This is kind of cool. We're testing this. Somewhere in that new lead sequence, give them the chance to get something mailed to them. Okay? We've tested this. It's really producing great results. So I'm giving you some inside baseball here. So inside of that new lead sequence, don't just email everything, because what did we say earlier? We've tested email only versus email and direct mail. So what we do is give them a chance to go get a copy of one of our books. And it pushes them to a landing page where the only thing they can do is give me their mailing address. When you get complex about taking someone from online to offline and back, you will skyrocket your results, because what do we know is true about someone who will give you their mailing address? Are they more or less interested in someone that just gave you their email address? Think about you. Have you given anyone your email address? Yeah, well, apparently based on my inbox, I've given it to like 4 billion people because I get a lot of spam mail. Now, have I given that many people my mailing address? No, I don't give that many people my mailing address because I don't want them, frankly, sending me anything that I don't want. So when someone says, I have an interest, they raise their hand and say, I want to get more information about your business. And then you keep in touch with them, and then one day you say, usually within 2 or 3 weeks in, you say, oh, by the way, there's a free copy of the book now that you've gotten the free digital report. The people who raise their hands for that part, they almost always become patients of ours. So it's a really neat little technique that I would suggest in your new lead sequence is somewhere give them a chance to get something mailed, even if it's just a hard copy of the report. Once you have someone's mailing address, now you've got a really, really, really hot list of people that are interested in your services. So I would test that out.
Okay, perfect. So I'd like to address a question that Brian Seacrest asked, and kind of along the same lines, a question that Ikemba Sue asked. But Brian asked the question, how many dental practices already use Infusionsoft? And really what it is how many people are using Infusionsoft in the dental field so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And although I don't have an exact number for you right now, Ryan, of how many dentists actively use Infusionsoft, we do have multiple sequences and multiple campaigns that are built specifically for dentists. And we actually have an entire system, an entire platform that is built specifically for the dental industry. So when you call in to talk to your consultant, that consultant has an area of expertise in the dental industry, so can set up some campaigns and stuff for you based on what has worked in other for other dentists. And then for Ikemba, Ikemba's new in town and is looking to rebuild his practice, and has asked some great questions. Ikemba, I think it would be a great idea for you to have a conversation with one of our lead development specialists so that we can talk about exactly answering your question and give you some ideas about the most efficient way to create your leads.
Also, I have to say something so funny. You said Brian Seacrest. I thought you said Ryan Seacrest. I was like, oh my gosh, we're famous. Any more? We can take about 2 more questions if that's okay with you, Dr. Burleson.
Absolutely.
So one question that just popped up is, can this software be purchased and used in the AK? I'm sorry, in the UK. I've got AK on my mind today. And absolutely, we have a large customer base in the UK. We also have Infusionsoft certified consultants who live in the UK and can help you. Although you can certainly utilize us here in the States, but we have certified consultants living in the UK that can help you with your software as well. Let's see.
Yeah, I see some people that came. Also, Mark from the UK said that he mixed up the time. And we need to do some UK webinar. Like, we'll stay up all night and do the webinars for you guys.
Yeah, it might be dangerous to get Madison and I at 3 o'clock in the morning, Arizona time.
That might be kind of loopy, but.
Yeah, Dr. B, a question for you. Let's see, this is from Blair Feldman. Do you do appointment progress reports for parents of the patients? And if yes, how does Infusionsoft automate this?
We're testing some really cool stuff with Infusionsoft, and so it's a great question, which is how can we, because as orthodontists, we follow up with a parent, we see them over 2 years typically. It's not like going to your dentist and having a filling done and then you don't see them again for 6 months. Keeping in touch with patients and parents is really important. If you've ever scheduled a call with Infusionsoft, we just stole the idea from them, right? So you can go and get a free consultation, right, with one of the business development specialists. It'll send you an email that allows you to pick a time. We're using TimeTrade now to test this, and you can actually then schedule. I can get mom on the phone, and I can get me on the phone at a time that's conducive to both of our schedules, and we can talk. I can tell you there's no more wasted time in the world than people sitting around playing phone tag. It's 2013. Please stop playing phone tag with your patients and parents. If you've got a mom that needs to talk to you, this could be very easily implemented. We do it every 6 months. We're making sure the parent has face-to-face or phone time with a doctor. We have a very large practice, and a lot of it is delegated to auxiliaries. Most orthodontists start about 250 cases a year. This year we'll start 1,774. So we have a big system in place, right, to make sure that parents don't fall through the cracks. Infusionsoft can set this up and automate it, which is very cool. We also give automated, I mean, I've shared with you probably 1% of what we do on this webinar. The answer could also be, right, an automated postcard that goes out before every patient's 6-month recall. Patients that are not ready for braces, but you want to keep in touch with them. Again, we're doing email, we're doing videos, we're giving newsletters, we're also sending postcards. What we've done, which is very cool, and general dentists also love, is that we've become the reminder system for them. So it's important when you're in braces to keep your teeth clean. We'll actually send the parent a reminder saying, hey, it's time to make sure it's Billy's 6-month cleaning appointment interval. Please go see your dentist and make sure that the teeth are clean. And so there's some really cool stuff you can do in follow-up with patients and parents. We're testing some stuff now that's really exciting. We test everything for at least 6 or 12 months before we get a minimum of a 5-to-1 return on investment. Okay, this is a no-brainer. Getting a mom on the phone and getting personal time with a doctor without making it so complex you're like launching rockets. You can do this all through Infusionsoft. It's really, really easy. So
I was just going to jump in and say the idea, if you're going to steal any idea today, if you think of one idea to steal from Dr. Burleson, me and Heather, as he was going through his presentation, were talking about how he loads content onto the actual iPad or the thing that iPod or not iPod that he gives away. And what's so amazing about that is I'm just thinking about it from being an orthodontic patient right now, like from the simplest thing to like, how do I brush my teeth with braces? How long do I brush my teeth? How do I floss? Like, there's so many questions that I have about the service that I'm getting, and it's a pricey service, and I expect for my orthodontist to know and tell me what I should do. So I think that's, if you can model that in your business, that's a really phenomenal way to promote the education that you have about the product or service that you offer.
Dr. B, I think Madison is actually asking for you to send her an iPod with all that. She currently has braces.
I'll tell you, we do iPads too. We've given away over 500 iPads. We've actually got flagged by Apple because we were buying too many of them. They thought we were reselling them. But in any business, if you're delivering a product, why wouldn't you take something that's a premium or a freemium and give them that instead of discounting your fees? So we never discount our fees, but we'll give the kid an iPod loaded up with content. Mom sees that now as an educational tool, not as a bribe. But there are other offices in town that just give away iPads. Here's an iPad. Great. Well, are you just bribing my kid to start with you because they like it here?
Right.
Or are you actually giving me something actionable? So when we load it up with videos and we load it up with PDFs on how to take care of braces, and the kids can schedule in the reminders on when to change their Invisalign trays, it's another reason for them to interact with our practice.
That's
genius.
Separates
you, makes you different. So
that is genius. And so I'd like to follow up that. I have two more questions that, if you have time, Dr. B, I'd love for you to answer. Ron Raynard has a great question that you addressed. You touched on actually a little bit at the beginning of your webinar. And his question is, I'm a personal injury attorney. How does this apply to me? I can't give away services or devices like a dentist can, and my clients come to me only after an injury. And of course, Madison and I have definitely some expertise in this area, but we would love to hear what you have to say, Dr. B.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think any personal injury attorney would be like God's gift to their world, which would be to have every list of people that were in an accident, like right 10 minutes before it was going to happen. Here's who's going to get in a car accident today. And so I'll tell you, first of all, just as a blanket statement, in case you got to run, because everyone's probably getting off their lunch break, at least on Central Time, or maybe if they have a late lunch on the East Coast, you want to get in touch with someone named Ben Glass, and he's done this brilliantly for attorneys. You can't give away services, you can't give away free iPads, you can give away your knowledge, and you can start to build in the prospect's mind. In other words, what should I be thinking about when I'm about to file my claim? What should I think about when starting a lawsuit or choosing an attorney? And so you can build free reports, you can write a book, you can establish yourself as an authority in your market, and you can do that and then automate attracting those leads through Infusionsoft. And the expert in that area is Ben Glass. He's an attorney in the Washington, D.C. area, and you can find him at greatlegalmarketing.com. And I'm not paid by him to say that. I just know that he's a great guy. He's a good family man. He's been married for like 30 years. He has like 10 kids. I think like 5 of them are adopted, and he teaches other attorneys how to do this. And a personal friend of mine who's an attorney and big in politics in St. Louis is actually doing this program, and he loves it. So I would recommend, and Ben also uses Infusionsoft. So get into that system, get into that world, and start to think outside of, right, it's still the same principle. We're still attracting new leads through information or questions or concerns or frustrations they have. It's not through giving a free iPad, but it could be through giving a free report that would get them into a system that nurtures them, so when they finally make the decision to choose who they're going to use for their malpractice claim or their personal injury claim, they choose you. That would be my advice.
Great advice. So one last question, and then we'll wrap it up. Kristen Hinkle would like to know, are the follow-up sequences treatment specific? For instance, if a patient doesn't schedule an appointment for a crown, would they be dropped into a different campaign than someone, if a patient doesn't schedule an appointment for a crown, would they be dropped into a different campaign than someone who didn't schedule an extraction?
Absolutely. And so in my opinion, the more specific you make these, the more the patient says in their mind, wow, it's like this was built just for me. It's like they sat down and made this just for me. That's what you want. And so in our business, in orthodontics, there are fewer things that we have to do than a general dentist. But we've built sequences, and we've actually contracted out. So we have general dental sequences as well. So if a patient has an implant issue or need. It's a very different level of communication and different type of communication than someone who needs a denture. And so, yes, you want to build in your business specific sequences that make sense. I mean, ask yourself the question, what if I was a patient? Would I want very general, generic information, or would I want something that felt like it was built just for me? So I would make it specific.
Awesome, awesome. And just another really quick, do you send text messages to your any of your patients about appointment reminders or anything?
We do text reminders. We've got a system we had purchased on a long-term contract, and so we are now building that into Infusionsoft because that contract's about to end. But we do email reminders, text message reminders, and voice house call reminders. Everything short of sending a messenger pigeon. So we remind people.
Awesome.
Sending an air.
Well, I know this was an overload of information, and we have a lot of people coming through on social media and through the chat box right now saying we want to get on the phone for the consultation and walk through life cycle marketing, kind of walk through this mapping process and figure out all the things that Dr. B has figured out. And so I just threw the sales line number here up here. It's 1-866-800-0004. So if you weren't able to opt into the poll because once I launch it, I can't relaunch it, or you can always provide your email in the chat box here and we'll email you that way. But if you want to call, somebody can probably do the 30-minute consults with you right now. These are actually our designated educational trainers. So these aren't people that sell the software. They're just people who help businesses succeed because that's really what we love to do here at Infusionsoft. And you know, Dr. B, he's been through the process, so he knows and he can speak to that. But we're just here today to help you guys and help you take this concept and this idea and translate it for your business. So thank you so much, Dr. B, for coming on the webinar today. Again, everybody, this session was recorded, so you'll see that coming in your email inbox in a few days here. We'll send it to the email that you registered with. And also we'll send you the link to SlideShare so you can look through some of these slides. You can in the slides, you'll be able to see some of those ideas for the days and the sequences that Dr. Burleson did, so you can kind of mimic that idea in your business too. And then also look at the great pictures that he displayed about his foundation, that kind of thing. It's really inspiring. And Dr. Burleson, we love having you as a customer at Infusionsoft and as a 2013 Ultimate Marketer. We're so happy that you joined us today, and we hope that you enjoyed yourself.
I did. Thank you. Hey, I've got 2 minutes for there's still a lot of people on the call. Can I convince a few people to do what's going to be smart for their business?
Yeah, totally.
I'll finish on time. So in 2 minutes, here's what I would say to them. There's still quite a few people on the call. It's just fun to see how many people are still on. You know, if what I've said makes sense to you, if what I've said sounds provocative to you, if you're sitting here saying, you know, that sounds pretty sophisticated, and it sounds like there's something inside of this that might be valuable to my business, why wouldn't you take Infusionsoft up on the free 30-minute consult, right? Get the resources, dig into them, follow the roadmap, see what you can see, and then decide. If you burst over, you take zero risk, right? But here's what I could have done 3 years ago. If you walk out of here, you leave a risk on the table, right? The risk for you is that you leave behind a huge, huge, huge opportunity that could be very, very, very significant for your business. And I tell you, just take my advice for it. If someone like Infusionsoft is going to give you a free 30-minute consult on it, do it today. You won't regret it. You guys have been an awesome. I had a really good time. Hope you had a good time, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, awesome. Thank you so
Dr.
much.
B.